Welcome students. This is Grade It ICT online tutorial series. We are going to cover the chapter 4, which is programming with this video. Uh, we are going to cover the third lesson, uh, spreadsheet applications, in another video. So we have to complete altogether 4 lessons by the end of the second term. So in this one, we are going to complete the programming lesson, and uh, corrections will be there in the paper from this lesson as well. Right. First 2 lessons has been covered in the first term. So we are going to focus on fourth and third lessons uh, from this tutorial series, right? So let's jump into these lessons. Right. So uh, in this lesson, first we have to understand how to analyze a problem, right? Programming lesson is basically depends on the logical analysis of a student. So it is better if you have a very good logical analysis skills. So it will be helpful to make a proper program using a programming language. So in this lesson, we are going to cover about these 5 topics, subtopics. First, we are going to see how to analyze the problem, right? How to analyze the problem. Then, what are the control structures appear in a program? Right? What are the control structures appear in a program? Then, providing a solution, providing solutions for practical application in day-to-day life, right? Then the fourth one, developing programs using sequence and selections. These two are some examples of control structures. And there is another called repetition, which is not, which will not be discussed in this lesson, but in grade 9, right? And then the last one, the application of mobile and smart devices developed using these programming languages. So this lesson is a continuation from grade 7, and for the first time this will be included in the grade 6 as well. So this lesson which spans all over grade 6, 7, 8 and 9. Then after that grade 10 and 11 as well. So uh, in this series, right, I assume that you have the knowledge from grade 6 and grade 7. From that point, we are going to cover the rest of the things. Okay, right. So the first part, the analyzing a problem. Right, following shows the steps to be carried out in order to develop a program to solve a problem. Right. So these are the steps. The analyzing process depends on these 4 steps, right? So when we come across a problem, first we have to identify what are the requirements. That means what are the requirements? Uh, why we should develop a software? For what purpose? So that is the requirement. So basically requirements are defined by the user that is requesting to develop a software. So according to that requirement, we are going to build up a solution. So first we have to identify the requirements correctly and efficiently, then only we can build up a solution, right? So the second step is, according to these requirements, now we know the requirements, then we are going to design a solution. It is called as creating an algorithm such as a flowchart, right? So we are going to build up our solution according to this design, which is given in the algorithm, right? Then coding the solution in the sense, we are going to write a computer program using a computer language, programming language such as Java, otherwise let's say web based on PHP, right? We are going to follow this algorithm and we are going to convert it into a computer program, right? That's the third step. And the fourth step is we are going to test and debug the written program in the third step. Testing in the sense whether we are going to verify whether it is working correctly or not. Debugging in the sense if there are errors, we are going to correct them. That's what we call debugging, correcting errors, right? So basically these are the 4 steps that we have to follow when analyzing a problem, right? So identification of requirements, designing the solution, coding the solution, then testing and debugging. If testing and debugging takes place, then we are going to distribute the software, right? So Right. Uh, let's continue with the analyzing part, right? Okay, how to analyze requirements and how to build up a solution, right? In this one, you have to remember we are going to build up a software which should be run in a computer system, right? Computer system consists of input, process, and output as defined by who? Charles Babbage. Charles Babbage introduced analytical engine using this concept of input, process, and output. So still we are going to use that concept with modern computers as well. So depending on that concept, input, process, and output, we have to follow the same steps when building the algorithm, right? Identifying the input or inputs related to the given problem. Now, in the previous step, I told you first we have to identify the requirements. Depending on the requirements, we are going to create a flow chart, right? So first we have to identify what are the inputs that should be given to the program by the user, the one who is going to use the application, right? Sometimes there may not be any input. That means sometimes there may not be inputs, but it is automatically running software, right? No inputs are required by the user, right? Anyway, if there are inputs, we have to decide what are the inputs. If there are not inputs, then we are not going to bother about that part. Second step, understand the output of the solution. So what this software do, right? What is the output? We have to concern about that part. Then depending on the input and the output, using our logical analysis, we have to decide the process, right? We have to identify the input first, then we have to understand the output, then we have to convert this input uh, to the output using the process, right? Using the process. So we are going to write the process with our programming knowledge. That is the requirement, right? Okay, this process may include input, output, and calculation, selection, repetitions, etc. Right? So these are the control structures that is going to be used inside a process, right? There may be inputs, there may be outputs, there may be calculations, right? Calculations is the sense in the program what you have to if there is something to be calculated, you can use standard mathematical equations. Then selection in the sense if depending on the situation you are going to make a decision, we are going to do this one or we are not going to do this one, likewise. And repetitions, repeating something until the condition is satisfied, right? So those are the basic things. Don't worry, you will be learning these things in the future grades as well. So you can repetitions, we are not going to focus on this lesson. However, these four are we are going to focus in this lesson, right? Okay, then the fourth one, then convert the above steps to a flow chart, right? We are going to concern about flow charts only. There is another type of algorithm called pseudocodes. We are not going to focus on that one, but keep in your mind, other than flow charts, there are some algorithms as well. So we are going to focus on flow charts, and these are the symbols of a flow chart, right? So to start, to mention the start and the end, or the beginning and the end, we can use this symbol. Flowchart is a graphical method, that means symbolic method, which means these symbols represent input, output, and the process, right? So the starting point of a program, it represents using begin, or else you can use start as well. So this is a rectangle, but with curved corners, right? Curved corners, a rectangular shape, curved corners object, right? You can write a begin and start. Normally, we use upper cases, that mean capital letters. It is not a rule, right? If you write with simple letters, it will be count, right? It doesn't matter. Okay, right. The end of a program will be represented using end or stop, right? So I have categorized these two because normally we use this couple together and this couple together, begin end, start stop. Some can use begin and stop, but it is not the standard, right? Okay, so then if we come to stop inputs, right? Inputs will be represented using a parallelogram like this, right? A parallelogram. Then you have to write input keyword, input. Then here we are going to write what is to be input to the system. Let's say you are going to enter your name. So we can write enter your name, input, enter your name. right? Likewise, then the output, then we can use the same symbol for input, for both input and output. The difference is when it is an input, you have to write input keyword. When it is an output, you have to use the output keyword, right? Okay. When it comes to a process or a calculation, process is normally defined by a verb and a calculation is a mathematical calculation, right? Let's take preparing a letter, right? So we have to paste the stamps on the envelope. So that is a verb that we have to do. That is a work that we have to do. So we can represent it using a rectangle because that is a process. It's a verbal thing, right? Then if it is a calculation, you can use still this rectangle, not like this curved one, this sharp rectangle, and you can write the mathematical equation that you are going to process. Okay, so for the process as well as calculations, you can use this rectangular symbol. Okay, right. In a word problem, you are going to write it in words. If it is a mathematical calculation, you can write the equation required here. Next one, the decision box. Decision box takes kind of one input, right? And there is a condition. This condition will be evaluated, and there should be only two answers, yes or no. That means there is a comparison, mathematically comparison. Let's say, is 5 greater than 10? What is the answer? Is, I'm asking the question, right? Is 5 greater than 10? Think a bit. No, it is not greater than 10. That means it has this path, right? So conditions condition means once it is evaluated, it should give either yes or no. Only these two are the options. There is no third option. Only two options, yes or no. So that kind of a thing should be inserted as a condition, a question, right? Yes, no type question. Okay. So this is called a decision box, a rectangular thing. You can alter this one, right? That means yes in the downside and no in the other side. You can switch these two, and even you can change the arrows in this path as well, right? However, there should be 3 arrows, which is incoming arrow and 2 outgoing arrows. Only 3 arrows should be possible, right? Incoming, one incoming arrow and 2 outgoing arrows. Okay, right. Then the flow direction will be represented using these arrowheads, right? Where to go, right? You have to follow the arrowhead, right? And the connectors, if you want to connect 3 or 2 paths together, you can use a small circle to mention that you're going to connect these two. That means these 3 paths or these 4 paths are going to be connected. Okay, right. uh, right. So the control structures. So the control structures is a block in a program that analyzes variables and choose the direction of flow of the program, right? There are 3 basic control structures. You call it sequence, selection, and repetition. But here in this lesson, we are not going to focus about repetition. We are only going to focus about these two, sequence and selection. Okay, sequence and selection. So where could you find control structures, right? Where is the control structures are present? They are present in the flow chart or a pseudocode in the process, right? Process consists of these control structures with the mix of input, output, and process. Okay, right. So let's see what is a sequence is, right? Let's see what is a sequence is. If the steps are carried out one after another, that means the step that appears first is executed first, then it goes to the next step up until end. This pattern of following one after another, steps one after another, is called as a sequence. Likewise, you have entered to grade 1, then grade 2 proceed, then get grade 3 up until grade 8. So that is a sequence of promotions, right? So likewise, we call this a structure of a program as a sequence, right? If the steps are carried out one after another from the beginning to the end, this is very important, from the beginning to the end, from the beginning to the end, not this direction, from end to begin, from the beginning to end, downwards, right? In a particular consecutive order, it is called a sequence. A process may consist of at least a sequence. That means when it comes to a process, at least there should be one sequence. right? At least there can be more, but at least there should be one, at least one sequence. Okay, right? Consider this one, right? This is designed to output the total when the price of a pen and number of pens are given, right? So let's evaluate this one. So this is the starting point as we have discussed in the previous slide. So this is a rectangle with the curved corners, which represents the start of the program. Then what is this? This is a parallelogram. It is possible for input and output as well. Since it has been written input here, so it should be a input control structure, right? So what is going to be input? The price of a pen. So the price of a pen will be input. Let's say it is 20, right? It is 20. And then the total equals price of a pen into 5. So this will output the price of 5 pens, right? So it is fixed 5 pens. So if we enter the price, it is 20, then 20 into 5, output will be 100. If a pen is 30, then 30 into 5, 150. If a pen is 10 rupees, 10 into 5, 50 rupees. So this is the sequence. First, it take the price of a pen. Then it is a mathematical equation. I told you, you can write it in a process box or a calculation box. So the total, which is in the left hand side, equals price of a pen. Now you have the price of a pen because the first it will be executed, and you have the price of a pen. Then that value will become here, and then it is multiplied by 5. Then there is an answer. This answer will be stored in total. This answer will be stored in total. So we are going to display that total variable. So answer is there. The answer will be displayed. So this process is called as a sequence. Okay. So you can see the Scratch program here. The Scratch is a software that you have been using it from grade 6, right? So this is the program, Scratch program. This is a very easy program, right? You can use it to demonstrate a sequence. Okay. Right. The next one, it's a selection, right? This is a very important and very versatile control structure, valuable control structure, which will be used in many computer programs, right? Selection decides which step or steps are executed depending on whether a condition of an algorithm is satisfied or not. I told you, inside the decision box, what we have to write is typically question type expression, right? Question type expression, right? The answer for that question will be yes or no. There will be no third option, right? Either yes or no. If it is yes, you can follow this path. If it is no, you can follow this path, right? So why do we writing two paths? Because when we are writing the program, we don't know. We cannot anticipate the path that it will take place, the yes path or no path. So we are going to write both the paths, right? Once there are values, it will select a certain path from these two, one path, right? Not both the paths, from one path. Okay, right? We are writing two paths because at the time we are developing the program, we don't know the values. So all the possible things will be displayed here. Once the values will be there in the program, it will select the correct path according to the logic. Okay, right? Therefore, a selection may consist step under yes part only or both yes and no part. That means if you have yes, right, then you can have a process here. In the no path, there may be process or there can be process, right? That means there may not be or there may be, right? It is optional, but for your yes path, you have to have a process, right? You can have both the paths as well as you can have only the yes path. Okay, right? So that is a selection. After evaluating this one, after evaluating this selection, right, this condition, it will take this path, no path or yes path. Okay, right? What is this program does? Find out whether a condition is today a rainy day, right? Is today a rainy day? The answer may be yes or not, right? If today is a rainy day, let's say yes. If it is a rainy day, then go to the library. Library is a covered place, so you can be there without any hassle. So if it is yes, then you have to go to the library. If it is no, which means it is a sunny day. It is not a rainy day, means it is a sunny day, right? Let's assume that it's a sunny day, right? Okay. Then you have to go to the, you can go to the playground. That doesn't matter. So the going to the playground or going to the library depends on the answer of this question, right? This is called the condition. Depending on the answer of this condition, this one or the other one will be take place, not both at the same time, only one at a time, right? Okay, that is the nature of a selection. Okay, so that is the second control structure that we have studied. So the first one is sequence. What is the sequence again? Starting from the beginning to the end, carrying out process one after another in a ordered manner, right? So it is called a sequence. Then the second one, the selection, right? Selection in the sense evaluating a condition. Depending on the condition, one path will be takes place, right? So there is a special situation here. You can see that from this condition, the process has been divided into two paths, yes and no. However, after evaluating these two, they have become merged again. That means they have merged again. That means they have become together again at this point. So you have to remember when you have entered selection, right? It will be divided into two parts, but make sure after finishing that one, these two parts has to be merged together again to the main flow, right? This is the main flow. This path has to be merged here, right? Either from this way or this way, it has to be come to the main path again. That is a very important point that you have to remember. Okay, right. So there are three things that you have to remember in a selection. First, the condition. Depending on the condition, there are two paths, yes or no. Then you have to write either these two paths or one of these paths depending on your selection type. And then remember that you have to take these arrows together again. Okay, right. That's the selection. Okay, let's see some examples. Example one, right? Okay, this is the problem. Display current balance after withdrawal from an account with 5,000, which means initially there is 5,000 rupees in a certain account. Then the owner, the account holder will take some money from that one. What you have to display is the remaining amount, right? Now, we have learned the analyzing process. Can you remember the analyzing process? Yes, the analyzing process starts from the requirement. What is the requirement? The requirement is to display the remaining amount, the balance of the account. So try to understand what should be the input to the system. What should be the input to the system, right? In order to decide the solution, first we have to identify the inputs. Okay, what are the inputs? We are going to follow that particular process. Okay, first inputs. What are the inputs? In order to find the balance, first we need to know the amount that is going to be withdrawn. Okay, that is going to be withdrawn. We have to remember that one, right? We have to need that one as an input, that amount of money as input, right? If we have that one, then we can subtract that amount from 5,000, which will result the remaining balance. Okay, right? Remaining balance. Then we can display it. Okay, right. Now there is a situation if the user tries to take more than 5,000, what happened? Will it allow? At the ATM, will it allow? User has only 5,000 at the account, in the account, but he's trying to withdraw 6,000. It is not possible. So we have to verify whether the amount that he requests is lesser or equal than 5,000 rupees as well, right? So first we take the input, then we are going to verify whether that amount is possible to withdraw or not. Then if it is possible only, right? So that is the condition. If it is possible, that means if the possibility is yes, then we are going to withdraw money and show the balance. Otherwise, if it is not possible, then we have to tell the user, right? It is not possible. Okay, right. Let's go to the process. then we start. In the start, we have the balance. We have to have the balance. That means currently 5,000 rupees are there in the account, right? Then we ask for the input the amount to withdraw, right? Then the user will enter the amount he wants, right? Let's say 4,000, right? Let's say 4,000, right? Then is balance greater than amount? Balance is 5,000. Then this is evaluated 5,000 greater than the amount to withdraw. Let's take it as amount, that is 4,000. Then 5,000 greater than 4,000. Is 5,000 greater than 4,000? Yes, of course. That means the balance is greater than the amount requested. So you can proceed with yes, right? So balance equal new balance in the sense here, right? New balance equal the current balance minus amount requested, right? Let's go with some examples, right? Okay, so this is the current balance. Okay, this is the current balance. You have current balance as 5,000. So user will enter okay, user will enter 4,000. Let's say 4,000 rupees. Okay, user will enter 4,000 rupees here, right? Then if the balance greater than amount, what is the balance? Balance here is 5,000. Then 5,000 greater than 4,000. This will be evaluated. This condition will be evaluated. So 5,000 greater than 4,000, right? What is the answer? Answer is, according to maths, it is yes. Okay, it is yes. Then it will follow this path. It will follow this path. Then this will be appeared balance equal balance minus amount requested, which means balance equal, right? What is the current balance? Current balance 5,000, 5,000 minus 4,000, which will result balance equal to 1,000 rupees, right? 1,000 rupees, right? So what it does is, what this equation does is, it will evaluate the right hand side of the equation, and the result will be stored in the left hand side name. So what is the left hand side name? Balance, right? It will be stored in the same variable balance, the result 5,000 minus 4,000. So now the balance is 1,000. Okay, then you can display that particular variable name balance, so it will return the value that it stores, right? So here here it is name, but when it displays, it will display the amount, not the name. Okay, not the name, it will display the amount. Okay, right? So this is an example. If it is the input value is 4,000, if it is if the input number is 6,000, then 5,000 greater than 6,000, it will follow no path, which will end which will lead to the end of the program, escaping this one, right? I told you that, right? Remember, I told you that you can have, right, uh, process in both the parts. That means process in yes path as well as no path. Yes, okay, right? In this one, you don't have a process in no path. Is this a problem? No, it is not a problem, right? It is allowed to not to have anything under no path, but at least you have to have one path in yes, right? In the yes path, you have to have one process. Okay, right? Then when it comes to no path, you can have something in the no path, or even you cannot have, right? It depends on the situation. Here you don't have to have something in that part. Okay, right? So this is the example one. Likewise, you have to analyze the solution using input process output method. So that is the basic what you call the process of analyzing a problem. Then you have to use some values and verify whether your program is working correctly or not, right? Using values, you have to verify it. Okay, right? We will this will be a little bit difficult for some students, but don't worry, with the practice you can master this technique. Okay, right? Let's clear this up all, and let's go to the next one. Example number 2, right? So what is the question here? Display whether an input number is odd or even. So what we have to display? the number input by the user is odd number or a even number. So now try to understand how do you distinguish whether it is an odd number or a even number. Okay, let's say this number 2044, right? 2044, whether it is a is it an even number or odd number? Obviously it is an even number. How do you say that? Because the last digit of this number is an even number, right? That is the particular way that you can say an even number or an odd number. But this is not the standard way. This is not the standard way. The standard way is this, right? The standard way is this. We are going to divide 2044, this number, the given number, we are going to divide it by 2. We are going to divide it by 2, and it will give you the answer 1022, and there is no remainder, right? 1022. Excuse me for this writing. I'm using a touchpad. It is very hard to write using a touchpad, and you will get a remainder as 0, right? This will be 1022, right? This will be 1022 as, excuse me, 2044 here, right? 2044 here, right? Anyway, the answer is remainder is 0, right? The remainder is 0. If the remainder is 0 when a number is divided by 2, then it is an even number. If the remainder is 1, then it is an odd number. That is the standard way you are going to verify whether a given number is odd or even, right? Dividing by 2 and obtain the remainder, then check the remainder. So that is the process that we are going to use. Okay, right? So let's say in order to do anything, first we have to take the input from the user, which is the number, right? So in the number part here, the number input by the user will be stored in the number, right? Okay, so we get the remainder. Remainder equals, that means the right hand side, the number appearing in the right hand side will be equal to remainder. Okay, so we get the number and we mod it to. What does this mod do? Mod means the modulus. Modulus in the sense this number divided by 2 and get the remainder. Get the remainder. This expression will output the remainder when this number is divided by 2. Let's take it is 100. 100 divided by 2, remainder is 0. Then 0 will be stored in remainder. Let's take 105. 105 mod 2. That means 105 divided by 2 and output the remainder. Remainder is 1. Then this remainder part will be equal to 1. Okay, that's what going to be happen in this process box, right? Then after passing this process box, we have the value of the remainder. We have the value of the remainder, right? So the remainder value will put in here and it will be evaluated. Remainder equals 0. This is equal, equals 0. If the remainder equals 0, if both the sides are equal, then it will follow the yes path, right? If the remainder is 1, it will follow no path because 1 is not equal to 0. So it will follow not path. So if the remainder is 1, it will follow no path, which means the remainder 1 means it is an odd number. If the remainder is 0, it will follow yes path, which facilitates it is an even number. So depending on the condition, we have two things in yes path and no path, right? So it will display even number or it will display odd number. From either part, it will come to the main point again and it will be finished. Okay, so that's the second example. What are the control structures you have? You have a sequence here. Can you remember that? You have a sequence here because these two steps are carried out one after another. Then you have a selection here. Then you have a selection here. So this program consists of two control structures, a sequence as well as a selection. Okay. Let's verify the previous one as well. Let's verify the previous one as well. Here you have the sequence from here to here, and again you have a selection here. This is also consist of a sequence as well as a selection. Okay, Right, now you should be able to identify that one as well. The control structures appears in a appeared in a certain program. Okay, right. uh, let's go to the next example, the third one, right? The number of characters in a password is one of the indicators of strength, right? So if the number of characters is less than 8, it is a weak password. If it is more than 8 characters, it is a strong password. That is the condition that they have given us. So first we have to take the password as an input from the user. So then we are going to verify it. Okay, then we have to verify it. But we have to verify the number of whether the password is a strong one or a not or a weak one. Okay, right, let's see that. Let's say it starts and it asks the input from the user will enter the password, right? The characters that user input will be stored in password. Then calculate the number of characters. There are possible ways in the programming language to calculate. Don't worry about this one. Don't bother about how to calculate the number of characters in certain password, right? There will be some options in programming languages. You don't want to worry about that one. Okay, right. Let's assume that we have calculated the number of characters in the password, right? Now you have that one as x, right? X is the number of characters. Then we are verifying whether is x less than 8. The given parameter is 8. Here they have said less than 8. We are comparing it like this, whether x is less than 8. If it is yes, that means it is less than 8 characters, which is a weak password. So we display it is a weak password, right? If it is not, that means this number is greater than or equal to 8, then it is a strong password. Here greater than or equal, we have to take the equal sign as well, right? That means this is less, the other part is equal or greater than, right? Greater than or equal, right? So if it is 8 or more than 8 number, so then the answer would be the password is strong. Okay, so that is the program. So depending on the number of characters, it will follow this path or this path. Okay, uh, any path after executing any path, it will be come to the common point and it will be ended. Okay, so there is excuse me, the selection is there, a selection is there. Then again we have a sequence as well. Okay, right. Now the last part of this lesson, mobile and smart devices, right? Okay, what do you mean by smart devices? Right, they can do several things as a normal computer can do, right? So from the traditional versions of these gadgets or the equipments, they are far better than their traditional things because they can do several interesting things than their traditional equipment. Okay, right. So what is mobile? Mobile in the sense it is portable. You can take it from one place to another place. So that is called a mobile thing, right? Okay, mobile devices are not powerful and versatile as computers do, right? Computers are very powerful. You know that from grade 6, grade 7, we have covered lessons about embedded systems and computers. So when it comes to computers, they are very versatile. That means they can do a lot of things than those mobile devices, right? But they can produce actually accurately produce an output accurately and efficiently as a computer do, right? Excuse me. Right. However, uh, it can produce a certain output accurately and efficiently as a computer does, right? Okay. So these are some smart devices. You can see a drone camera, we can say the quadcopter as well, and smart sunglasses, tablets, smart watches, smart TV, smart camera, smartphones, laptops, etc. Those are the smart devices. And they are portable as well. Portable in the sense they are mobile devices. You can carry it from one place to another, right? Doesn't matter. It allows you, right? Okay. These are some examples: laptop computers as a mobile devices for general purpose computing. Okay, tablet computers. It is a little bit smaller than a normal laptop, so you can use it to surf internet and takes photos, and you can take it from one place to another very easily, right? So another smaller version of a tablet is a smartphone. So you can use a smartphone. Everybody knows about smartphones, right? So for telephone conversation, SMS, MMS, right? Taking photos, recording, right? You can do several things using modern smartphones. Okay, right? Then smart televisions. They are much better than previous versions of televisions, right? Smart televisions can read digital images, digital audio, video, right? So it supports pen drives. So you can use a pen drive, and you can watch movies, you can listen to songs, right? You can do several things using smart televisions, right? Smart cameras, they have many options than a normal camera. That means auto focusing, taking photos and cropping them, taking audio and video clips without with filtering noises, right? That's the smart options, right? Okay, you know smart watches, right? Everybody know about smart watches. I'm not going to tell about that one. Then mobile spectacles, right? To watch sceneries in 3D movies. You can listen audio, right? Drone cameras can be used to control remote applications, and quadcopters as well. Right? So those are the mobile devices. They are smart as well, right? That means these are portable, and they are smart devices as well. So if in the at the exam, if they ask you about some questions, they will be asked questions like this, right? So tell me what are the name some smart or mobile devices uh, with their description, right? So what's with some examples, right? That's how they're going to ask you about these mobile and smart devices, right? So just focus on these examples given in the slide. You don't need to worry about other things. There are several other smart and mobile devices which is not mentioned here. You don't want to worry about that one. Okay, right? Okay, smart devices are designed to carry out a specific task or few, right? Not like computers. They are designed to carry out a specific task, one or two tasks, or very few, right? They are normally efficient and accurate than their traditional versions, I told you, right? They are very accurate and they are very versatile than their traditional version. That means not the smart version. Okay, so these are also some smart devices and the examples of using them. Okay, right? That's it for the lesson, right? If you have any question, you can post them using your WhatsApp group, right? So they I can answer them. Okay, so up until this lesson, you will get questions in the second term examination paper, and we are going to cover the third lesson, not spreadsheet applications. I made a mistake in the beginning of the video. It is a word processing software, right? Word processing software. We are going to cover that lesson as well. Okay, right? So questions will be coming from first four lessons. So better be prepared and follow the examples given in this presentation as well, right? There may be questions in order to analyze the problem and to build up your own solution, right? So go through these lesson, go through these examples and try to understand. If you don't understand anything, just download this video and watch again and again until you get the point. Okay, right? Thank you for listening and watching. Let's meet from with the other video for the third lesson, right? Okay.